Today we'll talk about creating effective learning objectives. So let's start with a definition. Objectives are brief statements that describe what students will be expected to learn or do at the end of a class, chapter, unit, program, etc. Educators will use various terms to describe objectives: student learning outcomes, student learning objectives, benchmarks, grade level indicators, performance indicators, and those of course go from whether we're teaching kindergarten all the way till graduate courses, and of course non-credit program. Everything has a learning objective. So why we use learning objectives? Well, first, everything starts with a goal. We also need to provide students with a clear purpose to focus their learning. Objectives also help the instructor focus on the choice of instructional activities and assessment strategies. But also, to be clear, there are the mandates. All programs, all courses, all degrees have mandates from the state, from the districts, from the program chairs, etc. But we are mandated not only to have learning objectives, but to prove that our students have mastered the learning objectives. We often always use Bloom's taxonomy. And Bloom's taxonomy is this pyramid looking that starts at the lowest level, which is, or the simplest level, the knowledge, and goes all the way to evaluation. So the knowledge, it's more concrete evidence of showing. For example, we'll show the verbs list, define. As we move up, we get into more complex and abstract. Some of the courses probably might never reach, since this is an evaluation. A kindergarten, for example, first grade, second grade, even English 101 might not reach the evaluation and synthesis. Some classes will be between the knowledge, comprehension, and application. Some classes will start at the application, or will start at the analysis. Next, we'll look at samples verb and using from the different level. So notice at the remember, which is the lowest level, the simplest, we have cite, define, identify, etc. Often it's remembering, it's listing. The next level, understand, add, convert, classify. As we move up to apply, acquire, adapt, allocate, etc. Analyze, it's the analyze, classify. In the evaluate and create, where people become to not just regurgitate knowledge that they learn, but make something else with it. So when you say compare and contrast, that's something at the evaluate and the create level. When you write objectives, there's 3 steps. So the objectives often begin with a phrase. At the end of the unit, the student will be able to do blank. Step 2, we're going to use action verbs that communicate performance by the student, like we did in the previous example. The students will identify the 3 steps to washing your hands. The students will compute a simple mathematical equation. Use action verbs to describe the action. And that action, whether we are at the basic level, the knowledge, or the evaluation, each one has to be to show action. More than that, it also has to be something that the student can measure, and the student will know when he or she achieved or mastered the objective. It also has to be something that is measurable and observable. Some of the problem we run into when people try to create too abstract, something more subjective. For example, understand. The student will understand the importance of washing hands. Well, how do I know what percentage did the student understood? 20%? 100%? So when you write your objectives, think about the competency level, think about the course level objectives, set measurable, observable, specific tasks or lesson level objective, and of course, check the quality of your objective. Also, your objective should be written from the perspective of a student. So here's now an example of some poorly written objective. Not every one of these examples, these are actual objectives that some of my students in the class took. So in identify, it's very good. Understand the use of data. How do I know how well or how poorly the student is understanding something? How can I measure, objectively measure that? In this example, utilize critical thinking. To do what? So I critically thought, how are you measuring in my mind how well I'm critically thinking? Recognize. So even though this is it's something I cannot measure effectively, we come here to these. This is well-written objective. So number 10, the student will be able to understand and evaluate Six Sigma. So understand and evaluate. So there is something. So I, as a teacher, I, as an instructor, I'm actually testing the process of evaluating. The same thing. The student will understand and evaluate lean management strategy. In this one, there's analyze, define, discuss. A tip when you're writing your objectives, see if you can write them, especially for the course, from the simplest to the most complex. Hope this is very helpful.